This is Western Washington's most watched late-night newscast with Don Porter, Jeff Renner, weather, and Tony Ventrella, sports. This is King 5 News.
Good evening. One person has been killed, apparently burned to death inside a car trapped between a gasoline tanker truck and the concrete railing of the Spokane Street Viaduct in Seattle. Seattle Fire Department units, including the hazardous materials team, knocked down flames spread from the ruptured car gas tank, preventing an explosion that could have rocked 2 city blocks. 2 workers at a truck leasing company below the roadway saw it happen.
All of a sudden we heard this big scraping noise, and there was this, we seen a car pinned up against this tanker and just throwing sparks. And then they come to a stop right up here, and it was just on flames, and I went in and called 911.
Did you see anybody come out of the car?
No, I don't think anybody could have got out of there. The vehicle is pinned up against the guardrail on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side is pinned by the tanker tires, and to my knowledge, no one got out.
The driver of the truck reportedly tried to put out the flames with his portable extinguisher. His tank contained nearly 17,000 gallons of gasoline. The identity of the driver in the car is not known at this hour. A medical examiner has been summoned to the scene on the Spokane Street Viaduct. Well, 'tis the night before Super Tuesday, and all around the land, the candidates dream of delegates in hand. Sorry about the bad poetry, but it does serve to underscore that the stakes for the presidential contenders in tomorrow's elections and caucuses are very high indeed. About 1/3 of the total delegates in each party, including 41 Republican delegates from here in Washington and a potential 71 Democratic delegates. While a map shows we are part of the action, the gold rings are the delegate-rich states of Florida and Texas. Michael Dukakis, the Democrat favored to win here, is also the pick to win in Texas, where 1 in 4 Texas votes is Hispanic. Dukakis campaigned in Spanish, in person,
mano en mano, hand in hand,
and on TV.
Yo sé que lo podemos hacer por toda América.
Polls show Jesse Jackson leading in 7 southern states. He's expected to do well here, too. So is Paul Simon. On the Republican side, late polls show George Bush far ahead of Bob Dole in most Super Tuesday states, likely to win at least 10, including Texas and Florida. Dole says he will fight on beyond Super Tuesday.
I haven't calculated all those things, but don't write my political obituary yet, if that's what you're suggesting.
Bob Dole and Pat Robertson are both given a shot at beating George Bush in this state. But a confident Bush today pointed to his huge victory in South Carolina.
I got more votes in the evangelicals than he did in South Carolina, and more from Democrats.
Also expected to do well in the Democratic caucuses here tomorrow, none of the above. In other words, uncommitted delegates not yet willing to back any of the candidates. Well, the actual turnout for the caucuses here is predicted by the experts to run somewhere between 6 and 10% of the state's 2.2 million voters. Still, activists worked hard tonight to prepare. As Diane Apt reports, though the goal was the same, to get out the vote, styles were as varied as the candidates and their campaigns.
Conversation, honor you tonight and our country in Jesus' name. Amen.
The Robertson campaign had a training session at the Grace Fellowship Church for the 8th straight week. They're just average Americans, they say, who want to get involved, nearly all for the first time.
Who has attended a caucus before? One person. Well, that's fantastic. At least we had one.
Hello. Have you been to one of these meetings before?
No. The Robertson people have a neighborly warmth that seems absent from most campaigns these days.
And print your name down here.
And they registered plenty of new voters.
And I'm calling on behalf of Vice President George Bush. Have you received your mailing from the Vice President asking you to...
Vice President Bush paid money for lots of his last-minute campaigning.
Okay, and you are going to attend the caucus and support George Bush, correct?
This is Contact Influential, one of 3 phone banks hired by the Bush campaign, the only one in Washington to hustle support with non-volunteer help. The only campaign using doorbell ringers on pre-caucus night was Jesse Jackson's. Rick Harwood made the rounds with a young friend, Amilcar Navarro.
Are you going to your precinct caucus tomorrow night? Yeah. You're not going?
Why not?
I'm not registered.
You can register at the precinct caucus.
Attorney Larry Baker is a leader in the move among Democratic Party activists to stay uncommitted. Pre-caucus night for him meant staying home and putting the kids to bed. Diane Apt, King 5 News.
A federal judge today dismissed presidential contender Pat Robertson's $35 million libel suit against former California Congressman Paul McCloskey. Robertson was permitted to stay on the campaign trail and out of the courtroom. That's important to him since the trial was to have started tomorrow, Super Tuesday. The judge laid down two stipulations. First, that Robertson pay $20,000 in court costs, and that he promised not to refile the same libel suit later. Robertson sued McCloskey when he charged publicly that Robertson used his father's influence as a U.S. Senator to stay clear of combat duty in the Korean War. And the Navy has put the caucuses off limits to Bremerton shipyard workers, and those workers, angry at what they call a gag rule, have taken the Navy to court about it. Under a new strict interpretation of the Hatch Act, the Navy has told workers they are not allowed as federal employees to express support for or opposition to political candidates in tomorrow's state caucuses. The workers say they have always done so, and late today they went to federal district court seeking an injunction against the Navy. They were backed up in this by Secretary of State Ralph Monroe, who fears state workers handling federal funds might also be affected by this.
It's very important. This is the election for President of the United States in the state of Washington. There are no other elections for this office. This is the highest office in the land. And I believe under the First Amendment, people have the right to go in and express their opinions about who they want to see lead this country.
Attorneys for the state representing the workers argue the application of the act is an unconstitutional infringement on their right to free speech and assembly. Judge Jack Tanner says he'll have a decision on this by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. As cash supplies shrink in Panama, frustration mounts there. We'll have more on that after this.
Thinking of buying a new truck?
The Mazda Dealer Information Center has a great suggestion.
The 88 Mazda SE5.
This sporty truck is already priced close to Toyota's and Nissan's base trucks.
It's loaded with standard equipment, 5-speed, sporty stripes, white spokers, steel-belted radials, and more.
And right now, dealer cash incentives can save you hundreds, so come on!
Get a great deal at your Puget Sound Mazda dealer today.
Where on your radio dial can you find a variety of favorites from the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
You believe in magic in a young girl's You wish they all could be California. I want to burn in.
It's Magic 108 FM with a magic mix of favorites from yesterday and today. Magic 108 for a lot of music without a lot of talk. Turn on the magic up at 108 FM.
Maybe Alaska isn't all igloos are nice. All I know is he went up there to find out why tourists that should be coming here are going there, and he hadn't come back.
Then let's do something about it.
Let's go.
Governor, delegation from back home just arrived.
You're all a bit overdressed, aren't you?
You know, I didn't even come up here for a vacation. I wouldn't tell anybody.
Alaska.
Jefferson County is farmland. The trees are taller than the buildings here, and most folks still take time for the important things. One of those things is the Jefferson County ham, the premium ham from farmland. Cut lean, natural hickory smoke, and just as juicy and good as it looks. Yep, the Jefferson County folks still take their time with the important things. That's what makes them so good. The best things come from farmland.
Eureka wrote the book on household cleaning. Yours at no additional cost with purchase. Oh. Cleaning know-how so complete, it'll sweep you off your feet.
In Panama, the U.S. money crunch aimed at squeezing out military strongman Manuel Noriega continues, and it is likely to get worse since today a U.S. judge extended a freeze on millions of dollars in Panamanian funds now in U.S. banks. Among the cash-short Panamanians today, frustration, fear, and anger at yet another day of the banks being shut down, another day of no money. To add insult to injury, the government gave out Social Security checks today. Trouble is, these checks cannot be cashed.
The government has given us checks, but everyone knows in this country and outside this country also that there is no funds. There are no funds. They want us to pay the water. They want us to pay the taxes. They don't give us the cash.
Now, Thursday will be payday for Noriega's army. So far, the troops have stood firmly behind the general. Today, angry crowds marched in support of Noriega, blaming the U.S. for bringing hardship to the people of Panama. The PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, is tonight claiming responsibility for a bloody hostage siege and gun battle in Israel today. Officials say it all began when 3 Palestinian guerrillas seized a commuter bus carrying nuclear plant workers. They threatened to kill their hostages unless Palestinian prisoners were freed from Israeli prisons. Then they shot down one male hostage. That triggered a counterattack by Israeli commandos, and they gunned down all the guerrillas, but not before 2 more civilian hostages died, bringing the total death toll to 6 in the Israeli Negev desert. At home, a surprise legal volley across the U.S. Navy's bow today as the plan to home port the supercarrier Nimitz and her support fleet at Everett temporarily dead in the water. A federal appeals court ordered a halt to construction on the home port until the Navy has obtained all the proper permits. Today's ruling is seen as a victory for the 7 environmental groups that have been fighting the Navy's dredging plans.
We are very committed to getting the Navy to do an environmentally responsible job of building this base, and we'll do what it takes.
And we took the position at the lower court that as long as the Navy was agreeing not to work in the water until the state appeal process was over, which we thought could be accomplished by June 15th, that there was no need for an injunction. Well, obviously the federal court disagreed, and I'm a little surprised, yes.
The Navy's plan is to dredge toxic sediments from the inner bay, moving them a few miles into deeper water, then covering them up with a protective cap of clean earth. Pollution and shoreline control boards are holding hearings now in Seattle to determine whether that plan is acceptable and workable. Well, if the jokes on Johnny Carson or David Letterman start sounding familiar by later this week, it may be because those shows have been forced into reruns, forced by a strike staged by 9,000 Hollywood scriptwriters. Soap operas may also be affected by this walkout, but the primetime shows apparently have enough scripts to get through the rest of this TV season. Lack of scriptwriters never hampers Carlos here. He's sitting in for Tony all on his own tonight.
Thank you very much.
What's going on?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the Sullivan Award winner, the amateur athlete of 1986.
All right.
As we said earlier, it's kind of a pleasant surprise. We'll talk about that. We've also got Tony's look at Dick Williams, his strange look at Dick Williams down at Tempe at the Mariners spring training camp, and other sports. So stay right there. Don't go away.
Saab's innovative technology starts at around $15,000 for the 900. Moves gradually up through the 900S, then onto the 900 Turbo, then the Saab 9000S, from there to the 9000 Turbo at around $28,000, and stops at the Saab Viggen, which runs about $20 million.
Now is a particularly good time to buy or lease a Saab from your Puget Sound Saab dealer.
Underneath the mountain lies a city like no other, a magic world of sound in sight for you to discover.
Discover Supernatural Vancouver. Call 1-800-663-RING for details on your magic weekend. 2 spectacular nights from just $40 U.S., including your Discover the Magic card for savings all over Vancouver. But book early. After April 30th, our magic rate disappears.
Ooh, Vancouver, discover the magic.
I think of this briefcase as a business partner. It's seen a few miles, but I don't make a move without it. My yellow pages? Yeah, they're a partner, too. U.S. West Direct. No matter what I'm after, it seems I find it right here. Suppliers, zip codes, maps, all the information I need to make things happen. It's seen a few miles, but it's one partner I couldn't do without.
U.S. West Direct, the one that gets used.
Super Tuesday, it's the biggest presidential prize yet, but who will win it? That's on the next edition of Top Story. On the next edition of King5's Evening, we're back in Rio, this time with Tina Turner, anticipating a concert in front of 180,000 screaming fans.
I think it's going to feel like one big party.
And Seattle's Rob Angel talks about some of the difficulties he had the first year he sold his hit game, Pictionary.
We had to collate in my apartment 500,000 game cards.
It was an all-play for Rob and his partners.
So join us for the next edition of Evening.
Weeknights at 7:30 on King5.
King5 is proud to serve the community of Olympia. To get involved in your community, call the Crisis Clinic Volunteer Information Service at 352-2220.
So it's not that Tony's goofing off, right? I mean, he is working.
Well, it's probably warm down in Tempe. Yes, he's working. You're right. It's
Sunny Tempe,
warm, and
by the pool,
water, and well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
About it,
No, especially ourselves. All right. It was a very special evening in Indianapolis tonight. University of Michigan baseball pitcher Jim Abbott was named the winner of the 58th annual Sullivan Award, which goes to the nation's top amateur athlete. The 20-year-old from Flint, Michigan, said he was in shock. Abbott was born without a right arm. Yet he led Team USA in the Pan American Games with an 8-1 record and was the first American pitcher to beat the Cubans in 25 years. He could have turned pro out of high school, but instead...
Nights like tonight, and carrying the American flag and playing against Cuba and doing those types of things make me decide that it was the best decision of my life to go to the University of Michigan.
All right, that's great. The Seattle Mariners dropped their first Cactus League game today, 4-3 to Cleveland in Tucson. Their Cactus League record is now 2-1. While the M's were losing to the Indians, Tony Ventrella was pondering the fact that the M's were losing Dick Williams.
Now, as I walk along inside the Mariner dugout here at Diablo Stadium, it dawns on me that Dick Williams, the manager who's been in baseball for 42 years and hangs out right on this top step, he's going to retire at the end of this season. But, you know, he's not that unhappy about it.
No, Dick's not upset at all. In fact, he's so excited about retiring, he couldn't wait to tell his friend, the umpire. And isn't the umpire happy about the news, too? So happy that he's suggesting places Dick can go on vacation after he retires. Of course, before that happens, Dick is determined to bring a pennant to Seattle in this, his final season.
I think the talent is here that we can win our division here, and we're going all out for it.
There's a lot for Dick Williams to think about these days. For example, what will he do when he does leave the dugout?
I've made some pilots for color on network TV, radio, and I've done some of that in the past, so I'll be listening for any invitations, but on the field, that's it.
So there you have it, the Dick Williams resume. I think he's pretty well set for the future. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, he may be doing my job next year. At Diablo Stadium, Tony Ventrella, King5 Sports.
Turning to sports news off the field, Husky football player Jay Roberts appeared in court today where he was charged with second-degree rape. Roberts, number 85, a 250-pound defensive lineman, finished his junior year with the Huskies last season. In December, according to court documents, Roberts and 2 other men forced a woman to have sexual intercourse. The incident is said to have taken place in Robertson's residence. Roberts will enter a plea when he is arraigned next week. Well, job security is something that's very rare in the NBA unless you're a legend, and yes, Bill Russell qualifies. Today, Bill Russell, coach of the Sacramento Kings of the NBA, was fired, but then he became the team's vice president in charge of basketball operations. The Kings had the 4th worst record in the NBA. Assistant Jerry Reynolds becomes the new head coach, and Bill Russell is kicked upstairs. On the court tonight, the Lakers are still rolling. They ripped the Dallas Mavericks yesterday and broke the Mavs' 11-game winning streak. Tonight, they tore up the Sixers in Philadelphia. Now, why is this man unhappy? His team is winning. He is Pat Riley. This is Laker movement right here. Magic to James Worthy to AC Green. Lakers led 60-54 at the half. Watch for the Sixers' Charles Barkley coming up. Cliff Robinson comes up with a miss. Barkley mauls Byron Scott for the ball. He ends the assault with a jam, and he's fouled. Riley can't believe this. He lets the refs know, and he's hit with a technical. But never fear, the Laker fast break is here. Scott to Magic, back to James Worthy for the slam. Lakers win at 110-104. Other winners in the NBA were Chicago and New Jersey, a loser to Utah, while Sacramento beat Denver 116-114 in overtime. The state high school basketball tournament starts Wednesday. It's a 16-team field in boys and girls double in AAA. The favorite in the boys AAA has to be the Redmond Mustangs. The Mustangs enter the tournament with a 23-2 record. They're the Sea King District champs. On the way to that title, they wallop Mercer Island and defending champion Garfield. It's great to be on top, but coach and players remain cautiously confident.
I tell them, you know, I tried to talk to them yesterday about the fact that anybody's going to beat anybody on a given night. And I think that there are 5 or 6 teams that could win the state tournament. I don't believe that there are 16, but I believe there are 5 or 6. And I think that's the course all the time you go in there. I do believe that any one of the 16 teams can win on a given day.
I mean, it's something you dream about all your life, and we've been working all our lives just to get to this week. And I'm just looking forward to it. You know, it's a good thing for the school, and I'm glad that I can be a part of it.
Tomorrow we'll take a closer look at Redmond. One more important item. Central Washington beat Western Washington 72-51, so that NAI district deal is tied up at 1 game apiece. Next game Wednesday night.
Tony's down at Tempe all week.
Tempe, he'll be back. Yeah, in fact, he is gone all week.
And you'll be here with us?
I'll be hanging out.
Okay.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right, Carlos.
Jeff is here to say, yes, our weather has a touch of spring in it, but that spells hazard in the mountains, right?
It really does. You know, we only picked up about 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch of rainfall down in the Puget Sound area, but they picked up, well, about 15 to 25 inches up in the mountain passes, and that has created a big avalanche hazard. The end result, I guess we don't have the graphics to go along with that. We will go to break. We should have that. I'll be back with the weather right after this, I think.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chick Hearn, and we're so proud to announce the grand opening of our newest Evans Tire Centers. And all Evans Tire Centers, part of a 75-store chain, are celebrating with special grand opening sale prices on selected Michelin tires. You see, we made a very special buy on Michelin tires just for this grand opening celebration, and we're going to pass the savings on to you. All you have to do is stop by any Evans Tire Center and ask for our special grand opening, Michelin prices, at Evans Tire Centers, now Washington's largest Michelin dealer.
If you're an owner of an import car, Chevrolet has some valuable news for you. Our $1,200 cashback offer on new Chevy Nova has been so successful, we've extended it until April 30th, so you've got more time to add up all of Nova's features. Then subtract $1,200 cash back to get the only answer for your next car, Chevy Nova.
The heartbeat of America. Yesterday, Chevrolet.
As you watched the Winter Olympics, you may have wondered what was under all that snow. Come this summer and see.
Walt and Ed Stasny raise Oregon's two-row malting barley for Henry Weinhardt's Private Reserve. Claude and Sam Smith grow our fine Cascade hops. And Glenn Carter makes sure our mountain water stays as pure as any in the country. There are hundreds of Oregon people helping to make Henry Weinhardt's Private Reserve. And if you had people like these helping you, wouldn't you want to be sure the beer you made was America's finest premium beer?
Ride to your all-pro dealers, Alderwood and Linwood, while in Cornforth and Puyallup, Valley and Auburn, Valley I-5 in Kent, Hyatt in Tacoma, Clyde Revoort in Everett, Hazelwood in Bremerton.
It may be that I'm just thinking about spring too much, but it does seem like it's slowly warming up just a teeny bit.
It is, but we've been seeing that warming up. It's going to drop back in. Not quite muckluck weather yet, but it might feel like it. In any case, tonight was a little bit on the wet side. A few light sprinkles throughout western Washington, especially up on the north end of Puget Sound, but we had a few falling over Seattle, which you see here just sort of around twilight in the scene. Switching from this over to our Weather Center computer, you'll notice we do have cloudy skies at King5. Winds lighten out of the south at 2 miles per hour, and barometric pressure is falling. Today's official high, 51 degrees. Low this morning dropping to 38. No rainfall officially measurable, and a pollen count of 546, but the rain should help settle that a little bit more. Temperatures across western Washington this evening are generally in the mid to upper 40s, as clouds holding in the daytime heat from today. East of the Cascades, a little bit cooler, down to 36 degrees already, for example, over in Spokane. Well, what about going over the passes to get to eastern Washington? Here's a look at driving conditions. Snow tires are advised at Stevens Pass, bare and wet at Snoqualmie and White Pass, bare and dry, however, at Blewett Pass. Across the United States, they were looking at not just a little bit of snow, but quite a bit. Over the Colorado Rockies into the northern plain states, tomorrow that's going to be shifting to either the mountains of northern New Mexico or the extreme northern Great Lakes. Rain showers to the south over the southern Great Lakes and strong thunder and rain showers over the southern Mississippi River Valley, over the eastern United States, generally dry and sunny. And the warmest weather is going to be over the southeast, highs in the 70s and the 80s, and also the southwest, which with much of the west coast seeing unseasonably mild temperatures, which brings us to the Pacific Northwest. Satellite picture shows this band of clouds. Some of the clouds drifted into western Washington, bringing us a little bit of sprinkle activity. But the general trend of this whole system is to the north and east. And as that comes sliding in tomorrow, look for increasing rain. Here's my forecast then. Tonight, look for areas of just light rain, winds variable and light. Low temperatures tonight, well, those should drop ranging from 39 in Olympia to 42 in Bellingham, Seattle, and Ocean Shores. Tomorrow, rain at times, winds picking up out of the southeast. High temperatures tomorrow are going to range from 48 in Port Angeles to 56 in Olympia. East of the Cascades, expect increasing clouds, rain and snow, or rain at first, changing to snow at Snoqualmie Pass. And our extended outlook, is scattered showers Wednesday and then clearing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and high temperatures warming back up into the low to mid-50s. But the mountains will be picking up more snow, and that means an avalanche hazard will continue to exist there.
But down here, it's warming up a bit.
It is.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Finally tonight, you may have seen him in movies such as Pink Flamingos, Polyester, or Hairspray. He dressed up as a woman, a loud, raucous, foul-mouthed woman. He was Divine. Real name, Harris Glenn Milstead. In Los Angeles tonight, officials report he died in his sleep at age 42. Joe Rico has more.
To the world, he was the crude, loud, foul-mouthed female impersonator whose character was the stuff midnight matinee cult heroes are made of. He grew up Harris Glenn Milstead of Baltimore, but he became famous as Divine, a campy 300-pound transvestite. His last role was in John Waters' Hairspray. He played the role of Edna Turnblad, the hefty mom of a teenage girl who finds fame in a TV dance show. Throughout his career, he insisted he was a character actor and not to be labeled a transvestite. This weekend, he was in Los Angeles to star in a TV series, Married with Children. But this morning, he was found dead in his hotel room in Hollywood. His publicist said he died of an apparent heart attack. The coroner's office is investigating. Milstead was 42 years old. Joe Rico in Los Angeles for NBC News.
And that's about all for us for tonight. For Jeff and for Carlos, who's sitting in for Tony, I'm Don Porter. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night, caucus night. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Wake up to Chris Bretcher and Chuck Meyer. Weekday mornings on News Talk Radio for the Northwest, King 1090.
What is the price of a car with more Le Mans victories than any other car in history? A car which for 40 years has pioneered engineering breakthroughs. A car whose very name has become synonymous with performance. What is the price? Well, if you have to ask the price, you may now be able to afford one.
Come in now for special prices on many four-cylinder Porsches.
Finally, an FM station that plays all oldies.
Garfield High always had the best proms and the worst chaperones. My parents.
KBS 97.3. New station, all oldies, on FM.
When I was 10, I won the hula hoop contest at Woodland Park. My best friend came in second.
KBS 97.3, all oldies, FM stereo.
It was Elvis at the Lincoln Bowl. My dad had to take me.
KBS 97.3, finally.
For Mrs. Paul's, here's Mr. Paul.
The missus told me to say she breads her delicious, crispy, crunchy fillets with her own special breadcrumbs. And the missus told me to mention this tasty sauce mix she puts in every box. The missus also told me not to wear my new fish tie.
Mrs. Paul's crispy, crunchy fillets. Crispy, crunchy on the outside, mild and flaky on the inside.
If it's not Mrs. Paul's, throw it back.
Sooner or later, keeping the old car running just isn't worth it. Not when Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge dealers are offering up to $1,000 cash back on select imports and savings of hundreds more on specially equipped models. On Colt hatchbacks, Vista wagons, Ram 50 pickups, and Conquest TSIs. So instead of this, see your Chrysler, Plymouth, or Dodge dealers before these great import deals expire.
Count yourself in on Super Tuesday and attend your neighborhood caucus. For the location nearest you, call the Secretary of State's voter hotline, 1-800-448-4881.
King 5 News with Gene Anderson. Weeknights